Probably the most eagerly anticipated product in a world overwhelmed by AI products everywhere has been Apple's foray into artificial intelligence. Apple is a company that often is not first to the market with new technology, but has a strong track record in becoming the one we remember by smoothing out the kinks to create perfected products. The question has been, can they do the same with AI? Yesterday, we got another glimpse of what will be coming with the Apple Intelligence product to the new generation of iPhones, the iPhone 16 and 16 Pro, with the traditional September launch event for these annually updated, but recently a little changed products. So with these being the first iPhones built for Apple Intelligence, did Apple knock it out the park? And should we be knocking down their doors to get our hands on one? But before we answer that, a quick introduction. My name is Nick DeCourcy. I'm the owner of Bright Ideas Agency, a digital transformation consulting company focused on the needs of smaller businesses. Check out the links below if you're interested in learning more about me or my services. Now, the first thing I want to say about Apple's events is that whoever writes the scripts doesn't bother with 10 words when 1,000 will do. I know some of you think I'm long-winded. If I worked at Apple, everyone would think I barely speak. Their event was the best part of 2 hours long and included a section where they took nearly 5 minutes to describe a button. That said, there were some interesting tidbits of information interspersed amongst rather poetic descriptions of titanium watch bands and the colour options for phones that most of us immediately insert into cases. But this is important context, as when we get an update from OpenAI, for example, their incentive is to get us to use, and hopefully pay for, their cloud software services. Apple's incentive, even if it is talking about AI features that are predominantly software-based, are rather different, in that ideally they want us to be upgrading the iPhone in our pockets rather more frequently than any actual limitations of the hardware would otherwise demand. For this reason, whereas from OpenAI or Anthropic or Microsoft or Google, we habitually get excited updates that dwell on the specific features of the AI technologies they are now focused on, from Apple, even at more software-focused shows like the WWDC, where Apple Intelligence was first announced, we tend to have to pick out the details from information that is more focused on buying hardware than it is on how software works. And being an iPhone launch event, yesterday's information was no different. The playbook was actually not dissimilar to what we've seen from Apple before, in that one of the primary focuses of their presentation is to jump on the AI bandwagon, not by really presenting something revolutionary, but by reminding us that so much of what they've been doing was AI before it was really cool to be talking about AI. And this is true. Apple has had AI hardware, or a neural engine, now known across the industry as an NPU or neural processing unit, on their devices for years. And this neural engine has been the reason an iPhone, or for that matter even an Apple Watch, can do many cool things. Even features like noise cancellation or fall detection, or a new feature to detect sleep apnea on the watch, are representations of AI in that the device is having to rely upon ML models to get these jobs done. But it's also fair, I think, to highlight that this isn't the same type of AI as people who want to compare Apple's AI capabilities to ChatGPT's are really focused on. And while there was a heck of a lot said about AI capabilities like these, there was very little, and I don't think anything new, said about the Apple Intelligence product that is the one that will be Apple's competitor, for want of a better word, to ChatGPT or Copilot. Apple's website confirms that all the new iPhones announced today will support Apple Intelligence. But beyond this, and despite the fact that even fairly old iPhones do carry dedicated AI accelerator technology, the list of devices that will be supported is fairly short. It is entirely possible, in fact, to walk into an Apple store today and buy a device that will not support Apple's upcoming AI technology. Many of you may look at this criticism and say, well, Microsoft is doing exactly the same thing with Copilot through Copilot Plus PCs. And to some extent, this is true. You could have a monster of a desktop PC with an RTX 4090 installed, which has tremendous AI acceleration capabilities compared to Copilot Plus PC minimum hardware, and you still won't be able to run those Copilot Plus PC software features. However, that's a subset of features, and if you can run Windows 10 or 11, you can run Copilot and Microsoft 365 Copilot just fine. Apple contextualizes this hardware reliance for AI on security by running AI models on device, including an on-device personal semantic index. Apple is positioning itself as offering greater privacy for your data than any other vendor. And this may well be true, but probably comes with some trade-off that I'll get to. However, it is still a little perplexing that Apple has been crowing about its neural engine as a differentiator for years, and yet there will be many devices supported for the new iOS 18 that won't be able to experience Apple Intelligence. And in fact, it now seems clear that an upgrade to iOS 18 will actually not necessarily even come with Apple Intelligence for supported devices. The beta of these features will come later in the fall. In fact, there are a number of limitations like that you should know about. You need a supported device, which isn't necessarily just a device that can be upgraded to the latest OS. The new features will be coming separately, and initially only in US English. Regional English versions will likely come before the end of 2024, but if you want a language other than English, you'll be waiting until 2025. But what about the features of Apple Intelligence? Before I answer that, if you're finding this video useful, it would be great if you'd give it a like. And if you want to see more like this, please do subscribe to the channel. For anyone with supported hardware, or who intends to upgrade their iPhone or other Apple device, the features of Apple Intelligence are indeed intriguing. Apple seems to be leveraging the control it has over the operating system to a degree that we're not seeing Microsoft do with Windows to integrate AI as part of the control layer of the OS. So in basic terms, the types of things you'll be able to do are not dissimilar to what you can do with Copilot or ChatGPT, for example, drafting or editing a review. But through the power Apple has to manipulate apps running on its OS, these features appear integrated into, for example, a text editing control system-wide rather than app to app. This opens the intriguing possibility that if you're drafting Outlook emails on an Apple device, you'll be able to get AI help to write in Microsoft's app without a Microsoft 365 Copilot license. To give a basic summary, Apple Intelligence will allow us to generate and edit textual content, generate and alter images using Image Playground, create custom emojis, and through Siri have a voice assistant that has a greater level of context in terms of activities and temporal context to, for example, send someone a bunch of photos from the weekend without having to do a lot of digging. You'll even be able to create custom videos using your photos or video clips based on a simple text prompt. And the implication is, because of the deep integration these features have into the OS, that we'll be able to do them wherever such an action would make sense. The fact is that because iOS 18.1 has been in developer beta, there is more content out there demonstrating some of these features than what Apple showed us in their event. It does genuinely seem as if Siri has been improved by AI, and that AI on the phone has greater context than what we've seen previously. In terms of the privacy angle, these Apple devices will create a personal on-device semantic index that will drive the contextual data that is used for your AI requests. We know that Apple hardware is pretty secure, and this index will be built using the otherwise on-device data, so no one who already uses an iPhone should be concerned about this from a privacy angle. This is in contrast to something like Microsoft 365 Copilot's semantic index, which is wholly cloud-based, or the much derided Windows Recall Index, which while on-device was found to perhaps be insecure and was built by capturing and storing data from your screen that would normally be ephemeral. Apple does not claim to do everything on device, but to certainly do more on device than many other systems. But when a request does need a bigger model than is on the device, that request is sent out to its private cloud compute technology, which are secure servers built with Apple silicon with no possibility of recalling your request. So Apple is blind to what you are doing with AI, even if it requires their cloud-based hardware to get it done. While Apple talks up the security of this approach, in practice, it isn't radically different to the level of assurance Microsoft gives with enterprise data protection for Copilot. And if the AI request is on behalf of work, for business, there are lots of reasons you might want logging of these requests. So far as I'm aware, Apple has given no copyright protection assurances like Microsoft has. So it may be that if you use Apple Intelligence to create something owned by someone else inadvertently, Apple has no knowledge of this, and you're just on your own. I like the idea of Apple's approach to your personal index of data, but I'm concerned that it potentially runs into a big barrier, in that we are all so used to offloading data from our devices to the cloud, either because that's the default of the services we use, or to buy an iPhone that truly can hold all our data is technically or financially impractical. And where the limitation of your AI's assistant's possible context is what data you host locally, this effectively runs our new AI age afoul of our ongoing cloud-based technology age. Frankly, I'm unsure what data is actually physically on my iPhone, because I know it all backs up to the cloud, I know it offloads data for storage management, and in a practical sense it's entirely irrelevant, as I'm always connected so I can access anything from anywhere. If suddenly I need to carry everything in my pocket, the 1 terabyte limit of the new iPhone 16 Pro Max is laughably small, while also being eye-wateringly expensive. And similarly, if I use multiple devices and they house different data, I end up with different indexes with AI assistants that can therefore achieve different things. This is exactly the issue I initially had with Windows Recall, leading me to call out the idea of now having to remember what device you did an action on, rather than what action you took. Surely the Apple Intelligence Index will have exactly the same limitation if you use multiple Apple devices. What is really needed is a secure standard for sharing data with AI that different providers can adopt. I want my Apple Intelligence Index on my iPhone to be able to commingle with the Microsoft 365 Copilot semantic index in the cloud, or the Windows Recall index on my laptop, as it's only with all that data that any one AI assistant can truly be universally useful across my life. Ultimately, I can see lots of pros to Apple's approach to AI-assistive technology. I don't think it offers a complete solution to all the challenges we've seen yet, and I think to a greater extent the talk of privacy is more marketing than a technical reality that is substantially different to other major providers. I think it's likely that Apple has manufactured hardware limitations to rolling out its AI to older devices because it wants to sell more iPhones, just as Microsoft manufactured limitations when rolling out Windows 11. But in a market where we upgrade our phones less often than we once did, I do think this is a more compelling reason than in other cycles to consider putting a new iPhone in your pocket. I definitely want to test Apple's contextual index day to day and to understand, just by using an iPhone with the apps I need for the various Apple and non-Apple services I use, how smart that AI assistant gets and how much data it has visibility into. I hope I will be pleasantly surprised, but I fear that Apple hasn't fundamentally eliminated the data access limitations we see with other services. What do you think? Will you be picking up a new iPhone on September 20th to be ready for Apple Intelligence? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching through to the end. Until the next video, bye bye.